everybody, and welcome to Andrew Discusses. Tonight's going to be a very special episode. No, it's not the continuation of that 4-part one. I'm still redoing the notes on that. No, this is going to be a very interesting discussion because tonight I want to discuss time travel, practical applications, and actuality of how it's feasible. Well, to a degree. However, I don't think I'm dressed appropriately for that. So without any further ado, I want to show an item that I seem to have found in a mystical treasure chest somewhere in the land of Hyrule. I had to beat the crap out of some kid wearing a green shirt with a pointy stick and a talking fairy that kept going, hey. Yeah. Oh well. It's this. Tie. What happens when I put it on? Well, let's check it out, shall we? Let's see here. Okay. That's not too shabby. Still don't feel like. Greetings, class. My name is Professor Utonium. Okay, I wish it was, but it's not. I'm the smarter version of Andrew. Thank God this tie was in Hyrule. Whew! I can't tell you how many years I have been trapped in his brain. Anyway, this is going to be a fun, exciting, and educational episode of Andrew Discusses. And I mean educational, damn it. I think he has been far too laxing lately when it comes to actually teaching people something. So I'm going to make amends for that. Me, my tie, and my pen. Yes, because I am going to teach you. Okay, maybe not teach you, but more or less explain to you how time travel works. So let's get on with it, shall we? Class is in session. So now, before we begin, I think it's more prudent for me to say the following. While time travel has theoretically been proven impossible, it is technically possible, but impossible when the theorists deemed it impossible. However, with the advancement of technology, thank you, human race, we actually have the probability of time travel so long as we understand its basic principles. A perfect example of how time travel works can actually be found, best to my knowledge anyway yet, down at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. There was a giant pendulum, which underneath the pendulum and around it were a bunch of dominoes. And every hour on the hour, one domino would be knocked over by the swinging pendulum. The reason why is because the dominoes were moving in front of the pendulum, thereby proving one theory of time travel. The Earth's rotation is the key. Consider this small, crappy Wi-Fi adapter that I believe Andrew used to use for the longest time as you. And consider my fist, the only round object I currently have available to me, thank you very much, Andrew, as the Earth. You are situated on the Earth, yet the Earth is still rotating. So, by principle, you're standing still while the Earth still moves. Yes. Basically what this means is that even though you are moving, or the Earth is moving, you're actually standing still. So one theory of time travel, at least a big one anyway, was the fact that if you could reverse the Earth's rotation, you could in fact reverse time. Speeding up the Earth's rotation would also go forward in time. This is still a possibility, however there's two problems with it. One, you would have to find a way to keep yourself isolated from the time itself as well. Now, time, I will explain a little bit as to why it's the way it is, at least theory-wise anyway. But when it comes to this, there's basically the one principle. If you're standing still and the Earth is moving around you, by present tense, you're the pendulum, or you're the domino, and the Earth is the pendulum. Eventually, it will knock you over. Yes, it does happen. However, it still moves. via the rotation. So finding a way to stop the rotation of the Earth would simply be causing the Earth to spin the opposite direction, the same amount of force it's taking to move the Earth in the current direction. So, hypothetically, if the Earth is moving at, let's say, 1 trillion miles an hour around in a circle, you would have to go 1 trillion miles an hour in the opposite direction to halt the rotation of the Earth. To have it go backwards, you would have to effectively go double the original speed in order to stop it. If you went 1 trillion miles to stop it, you'd have to go 2 trillion miles to reverse it. Now, yes, it is just a hypothetical scenario, but still, it's that. And to go forward, you simply just have to go twice the speed that the Earth's moving. So just add on an extra 1 trillion onto the original speed of the Earth. Have it go double its own speed, and you will go into the future. Effectively. However, keeping yourself out of the time stream and out of a way of being affected is where the next fun bit comes in. You see, time is considered by particles, and multiple science fiction shows have deemed the particles as tachyon particles. These particles supposedly are what allow you to be in time. They control time and space. Unfortunately, they don't. Well, at least not fully anyway. Yeah, if you excuse me, I'm going into high gear here. What the hell? Yes. Alright. So. Stupid tie. Anyway. Tachyon particles are basically very small, unable to be seen. Unlike other things, like bits of dust and sunlight, things like that, they're extremely tiny. Fact to be, there's no known way to actually measure a tachyon particle, at least to the best of my knowledge. And while I'm only as smart as Andrew thinks he is, let's just put it this way. It's a discussion video. We're not actually teaching you, because I don't have a PhD in temporal physics. God, wish I did. Because then I'd at least have something to look forward to every day. But anyway, tachyon particles would be what would allow you to technically travel into the future or into the past and not be affected. So basically, you would have to find a way to stabilize the particles around you, halting them exactly as they are so you would stay perfectly safe. This can be done multiple ways, suspension field or things like that. But again, I'm going deep into the world of science fiction, and we want to talk practical applications. Yes, we're pretty much like H.G. Wells in The Time Machine, which is a good point. If you've seen the movie with Guy Ritchie, yes, I know it's not the world's greatest, but it's better than nothing. You remember that his machine basically bends light. There was another movie called Paycheck that also kind of had a similar premise to this, where time viewing was possible but not time travel. And technically, this is, if you look around the curvature of an object and you come back around to it, you're seeing yourself, but you're not seeing the object or yourself in the same time. It's in the future. I mean, technically, you could probably just reverse the process. You'd be seeing the past, but you know the past. Why would you want to view the past when you want to view the future? Of course, it wouldn't give you winning lottery numbers because the future is never set in stone. But anyway, basically, that's the idea of it. Time travel is one of multiple things. You can either bend light around an object, in this case, the object being the Earth, by bending the light around it going at the same speed, or theoretically double the speed, or the reverse double the speed, you could probably turn back time, or at least view a return point of time. However, you yourself would have to be completely immune to this. I again go back to The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, because the device that was used actually does make a bit of sense. It creates a sort of field around the person, effectively keeping them safe and sound from the time stream, where else everything around them changes dramatically, including the environment, the air, the planet, the literal ground they're upon. Hence why the character was able to go so forward into the future in the movie and completely into the past, because they themselves are being pulled out of time and just transplanted. Yeah, I know it's a cheap cop-out way, but still, I got the tie and the pen. Doesn't mean I know it all, but still. Anyway, so what other prospects could we possibly have for time travel? Well, here's where stuff gets a little iffy. Time travel, if it is possible, and if you're actually able to do it, does have some laws and variations. Yes, here's the bad part where you can't go into the future and get yourself a lottery ticket and go back to the past and give yourself the lottery ticket. Mostly because you're changing the future. Here's the reason why. Now, multiple science fiction shows have explained this, and I believe Andrew did somewhat of a job himself when he was explaining about how time is basically multiple branches, which is still true. Here's basically the thing. Look straight up a tree trunk. I mean, lean up against it, plant your head like this, and look straight at it. If you're actually looking up at it, you'll see all the branches that the tree trunk is giving off. Those are the different eras of time, the different branching pathways that can affect your one timeline. So basically, imagine the tree trunk is your timeline. The starting point is where your feet are, the ending point somewhere far up in the sky. Now, taking that same consideration, look at it from this point. Every single branching pathway is a possible future, depending upon which direction you take. Now, of course, you can only go one direction. You can't go backwards. The reason why is because you can't. There's no way to reverse it. You're heading forward and upward through multiple paths. That doesn't mean you couldn't find the same path at a different way down the road and have the branching over effect happen again, but it's a rarity if it does happen. But that doesn't matter, because there's also the Dr. Emmett Brown time travel understanding. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with that wonderful genius, I recommend checking out Back to the Future Part 2, because that is where he explains it. This line here is your timeline. Basically, I'll just, this is your timeline. I'll represent it with this, half-beaten cardboard tube. Where are my props, you bastard? This is your timeline. Let's say this is 2019, and this is 2049. Anything in between these 30 years is time. Now, at some point, a timeline can skew off and create an alternate era in time, both from when it started off. So, let's say 2019's here, and it skews off down here and creates an alternate 2019. Then that alternate timeline continues onward, affecting the original 2049. Now, yes, it does mean that you can't undo anything that's done unless you know the exact moment when it happens. Again, Back to the Future Part 2 explains this perfectly. However, time travel is still in its infancy as far as this is concerned. While it is a possibility, there are multiple things that could go wrong. Besides the fact you'd have to figure out a way to measure tachyon particles, which is almost next to impossible. You'd have to figure out a corrected method in order to even get to that far. Creating the quote-unquote dimensional method is Andrew's one idea. However, I like a more simple touch. I, for one, propose... That's better. Sorry, I was feeling a little unnerdy there for a moment. I, for one, believe this idea would work. More of a combination of The Time Machine by H.G. Wells and the static distortion field from Stargate SG-1. Creating a distortion field and utilizing the similar technology from The Time Machine, you could, in fact, find a way to travel into the future. However, you would still be stuck at one individual point. Now, of course, with Dr. Emmett Brown's flux capacitor and his DeLorean, you could technically travel any freaking place you wanted to go, but you would still be stuck at that exact point when you left. That's the one key. No matter where you go, future or past, you're still going to be stuck at whatever point you were at. So let's say you want to go into the future. Here's the timeline again, and again, we'll use you. Hi, you. So here's how this works. You're at, let's say, an open parking lot. It's the year 2005. It's an open parking lot. Nothing's built there. We'll make this about 2025. There's now a shopping center there where that open parking lot used to be. It's no longer a parking lot, it's just a big-ass building. You're now inside where the parking lot used to be, because that's the point in time where you were. It just took you out of that and basically made you non-existent until this point. Forward again. Now it's an empty, vacant field, completely filled with toxic waste. If you survive, which would be a miracle, it's still the same place where you were. Depending on if you just jumped from here to here, it's still the same thing. So no matter what, time travel is still confusing, but it is possible. That's one of the unique things about time travel. Because even though we consider it impossible, it is technically possible. It's just a matter of actually figuring it out. That's the real challenge in itself. So basically, what do we have here? Time travel? It's possible. How? Flux capacitor? You wish. Maybe, just maybe, some type of, I kind of want to say transmogrification device? I don't know. I would go more with the distortion field and affecting the Earth's rotation. That would be about your best bet. However, you would still need a tremendous amount of power for this. To power Dr. Emmett Brown's flux capacitor DeLorean, he had to use 1.21 gigawatts of energy, which, according to him, the closest power source to that was a bolt of lightning. And therein lies another probability. But I feel my nerdiness beginning to wear off. And thus, I must bid you adieu. Andrew's beginning to take back control. Alright, Andrew, you can have him back. Until next time, I'm the smart one. Remember me for who I was. Whoa! I am sending you back to Hyrule. Alright, yeah. Basically, everything he said. How did I get this pen? Everything he basically said. Yeah, basically. I'm Andrew Rhodes, and this has been Andrew Discusses. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a good one.